Hello and welcome to the Psychology Is podcast. This is Nick Fortino, and I'm here today with Tomasz Starczewski. We are connecting here online from California to Poland. So this feels like a special occasion here to be talking to you. And just to let the audience know what we're about to talk about, Tomasz watched one of my podcast episodes and reached out to me because he has his story to share. And so I'm honored to host you on this platform and let you share your story with the Psychology Is audience. So Tomasz, first of all, just how are you in this moment?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. I'm a little bit sleepy because it's late here in Poland, but I'm drinking my ginger drink,
Nice.
so it boosts me a little bit.
Well, tell me this. Why do you think it's important to share your story?
Well, because I'm just one of many who took antidepressants or still taking antidepressants, and I believe the more people are aware of the consequences or long-lasting consequences of those drugs, the better. And basically, my idea is to spread awareness and possibly help others to go through protracted withdrawal and PSSD, that is post-SSRI sexual dysfunctions. That is devastating symptom of protracted withdrawal. Yeah, and I started my own channel, my own website, where people can reach out to me and get some help when they are going through the process of protracted withdrawal from antidepressants or antipsychotics or benzodiazepines.
Well, we'll be sure to provide a link to your website. Congratulations for starting that.
Thank you.
Well, as you know, and as everyone else who listens to this podcast regularly, critically examining modern day practices in psychiatry is one of our main themes. And there's a surprisingly high number of people who are doing the same thing and who have stories like I think the one you have to tell about being harmed by psychiatry. I mean, there's even this whole movement and an identification known as a psychiatric survivor. And we've interviewed a couple different psychiatric survivors on this podcast. And so I'm happy to host another one here in you. So tell us, when does this story begin prior to you ever even seeking any kind of medical guidance? Where does this story begin?
So it started in 2009. I was studying cognitive neuroscience in Poland, and we were having lectures from psychiatry, and the doctor was talking about imbalance theory, like chemical imbalance theory, that were quite popular back then. And well, right now it's not quite valid, and it's all hoax. But back then, it all made sense to me that, since I was an anxious guy and I have all this neurochemistry imbalance in my brain, maybe it's a good idea to reach out for some help and get my chemistry restored and rebalanced by medications. And then it started the downward spiral of being polydrugged. And long story short, it was just an accident. I wasn't severely, I don't know, depressed or traumatized. I had my background. My parents made some mistakes in the past. That's why I was maybe some anxious, social anxiety or stuff. But it was just all manageable. But I heard from this authority that those chemicals needs to be restored and rebalanced, and he was talking about it with so excitement and confident that it was that it needs to be done. And I just followed him, and then get, after 15 minutes of consultation, get prescription for the first drug was paroxetine. And then it all started, the whole cascade of consequences.
Interesting. So this is in 2009. You're studying cognitive neuroscience.
Yes.
Clearly, perhaps as evidenced by that fact, you are a functional person, and yet you found yourself to be an anxious person as well. And so you hear this enthusiastic, authoritative lesson on the so-called chemical imbalance. And, I totally sympathize with how much it seems to make sense, right? How
Yes.
logical it can sound. And so then you decide that that would be kind of a stabilizer for your anxiety. And so you
Yes.
sought out a consultation. And I heard you say that it was about a 15-minute consultation
Yeah.
in order to get the prescription.
Correct. Yeah, it was just, I was just saying, I'll say, okay. He interrupted me in the middle and say, okay, I've got a perfect solution for you. This drug is labeled like the golden standard for general anxiety disorder or whatever. And then I left, and I was even mentioning about some psychotherapy or something. I said, oh, it's no need to unnecessary. It will fix all your problems. I like a marketer, like from this perspective right now, after this 15 years, I think it was like a weird experience, like a bizarre, like a drug dealer, basically. Like hey, take some pills, it will make you feel better.
Mm,
So yeah,
good point. Right. I see what you mean. Almost like a salesman or
yeah,
someone pushing the drug.
yeah,
And this was, and just so people have kind of the context around this, you were in Poland at this time,
yeah.
correct?
I were in Poland, and he was just a psychiatrist. That's one of many doctors who has his clinic and his has his patients, and they go to visiting him and get prescription for various medications. So it
Mm.
was
And
just
say again, what was the first drug he prescribed?
paroxetine.
Paroxetine.
Paroxetine, yeah. The old one of the oldest antidepressants from selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and then I have been switched many times until I hit the sertraline, which had the greatest impact on my
Mm.
mental and physical health.
So what did you notice when you first started taking it?
Uh, well, the first after the adaptation phase, within a few days, when I had I from what I recall, I at first I had serotonin syndrome. I had a fever. I was sweating. I couldn't sleep. I had jaw tension, muscle tension, light sensitivity, all those symptoms. And then I contacted him. I say, hey, I feel very weird. I have this and that, and I say, oh, please continue. It will subside. And so it did. I don't know if it had any neurotoxic effect on later on, but the point is, when it started working, like after this adaptation phase, I suddenly stopped thinking. Like I said, okay, that's something bizarre. I have blank mind. Like I don't think about anything at all, and I was actually happy about it. I thought, okay, I'm not worrying about stuff. I'm not over analyzing. I'm not ruminating. I'm just I was at present. I was just there, and nothing were bother me. Like and I had some like minor side effects like sleepiness and maybe some coordination problems. But the first thing I noticed was this blank mind and not giving a crap about reality. Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then within next few months, I noticed that the side effects were getting stronger. I was sleepy to that point where I was falling asleep during lectures, when I was falling asleep when I was studying. I had my sexual side effects has increased. So I thought, okay, I won't be able to prepare for my exams in that state, so I need to quit this drug, and I did so. Like after the consultation, abruptly, no tapering. Back then in Poland there was no such thing as tapering. Even now, we don't here in Poland. Tapering is something still, far from casual practice, but I called Turkey the paroxetine, and after a few weeks I had acute withdrawal and the beginning of protracted withdrawal. So I end up back to my doctor, and he say, "Oh, maybe we need to switch medication because your anxiety or depression or whatever he told me is reoccurring, and you have this setbacks of your symptoms." But he was wrong. Maybe he was aware, maybe he wasn't, but it was the onset of withdrawal effects from
Right.
paroxetine, and then he restarted like with he prescribed me different medication. The time it was sertraline, and the story continues. Then the sertraline actually did the trick. Like I didn't felt that sleepy. I felt quite even like my mood was very elevated. I had some sort of hypomania state. And the doctor, when I complained about it, I said that okay, something is not right because I'm too energetic, I'm too outspoken. And he told me, well, actually healthy people function like that, and it's quite normal. You should be happy about it. And I say, okay, whatever you say. So I continue for a few years, and then my health started to deteriorating, like like the sexual issues. I was sweating a lot. I had muscle tension, and my emotional response getting lower and lower, to the point when my emotional range was very muted, and until the point where I decided to discontinue the medication.
Mm. So let me just in case people are not familiar with the terms, will you explain to us what acute withdrawal and protracted withdrawal are?
Okay, so acute withdrawal is where the first phase of discontinuation the medication. You might experience some mostly physical symptoms like sweating, insomnia, some the upset stomach. So the first side effects post discontinuation of the drug, and the protracted withdrawal occurs within few weeks up to few months after tapering or quitting the medications for all, and the protracted withdrawal effects last between a few months up to a few years or indefinitely. So protracted withdrawal is the real deal, and the long lasting. From my perspective, is autonomic dysregulations post those medications that needs time. The homeostasis takes a lot of time to be restored because of the neurohormonal changes in your brain and body. So yeah,
Makes perfect sense. And I know that this is very personal, so please, only share as much as you're comfortable. But many people are talking more and more about the sexual dysfunction
yeah,
caused by antidepressants. And I heard you say that you were experiencing that.
yeah.
So can you enlighten us, speaking to it personally or just more generally, what
Okay.
are some of these symptoms of sexual dysfunction?
So when I was on the meds, I had, let's say, a mild or moderate sexual dysfunctions. It was difficult to achieve orgasm. I had a little bit muted sex drive, and a little bit of genital numbness. The sensation was not so. My genitals were not so sensitive. But once I discontinued taking medication, or when I reinstated, I can't recall because I tried to quit them many times. So and failing, but during the reinstatement or after the final discontinuation, I developed full-blown PSSD, that is post-accessorized sexual dysfunctions, and I lost all romantic feelings, all arousal, desire. Like I couldn't get excited from seeing. I couldn't participate in any sexual activity. My genitals were completely numb, like the lidocaine, the anesthetic drug, and it felt like I had this feeling on my skin that I felt the touch, but I didn't get any pleasure response. It's like my reward circuit in the brain has been shut off, and there was no like brain guts brain genitalia connection.
Right.
So it was the main reason why I decided to quit the meds for good, because I could imagine, like that I was severely depressed, that I had anhedonia, and the doctors could tell me that okay, it's all in your head, it's related to your trauma, to whatever, but they couldn't they couldn't I couldn't believe that I can lost sensation in my genitals due to my psyche. So it was
Right.
something that crossed the line for sure, and then I was confident about this, that it was drug-related condition and all the other symptoms, because the PSSD was just one of the tip of the iceberg of the catastrophe, but it was very profound and very distressing, because you can imagine that it was difficult for me to stay in relationship, to have romantic feelings, to have engagement, to have this drive, because from the psychological perspective, like the drive, the libido, from the Freud perspective, it's not only just sex, it's just basically drive for life, and it was just gone for achieving goals, for doing stuff, for career, for money, for for everything basically. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and explaining that. I'm so sorry that you experienced that. And, people call this post SSRI sexual dysfunction. So you may know, it sounds like you know more about the literature than I do. Is this typically something that is setting in upon discontinuing, or it kind of starts while you're on it and then it doesn't get better once you discontinue? Can you help me understand that better?
Yeah, okay. So typically it starts around 30 minutes after taking first dose of the drug. The genitals in general population of people who are taking those drugs became to some degree damp after the first dose is being digested. So the
Right.
effect is immediately. The sexual side effects might somehow subside when the drug is being taken, like in the process of taking medication. But after discontinuation, some patient may experience like setbacks of even like persistent genital arousal. So it flips the switch for some time, and then like when the protracted withdrawal hits, also the post SSRI sexual dysfunctions appear. So it's like each case is a little bit different, but sometimes it happens when you re-stain the drug. Sometimes it happens when you switch the medication to different ones. Sometimes it happens after a single dose and lasts like indefinitely. So it's like each case is a little bit different, but the tendency is usually occurs after discontinuation, and during taking during being while being medicated, those side effects are considered to be less severe than during the protracted withdrawal. So, but it's not the rule of the thumb. Like each case is a little
Understood.
bit different, and each case needs to be believed that it happened like this. Because I know cases where people took only few doses of those drugs and the side effects persisted many years. So we're not sure what's causing this. It might be receptor desensitization, some epigenetic changes, some changes in microbiome. There is theory about polyneuropathy. But in my opinion, I do believe it's related to autonomic dysregulation
Makes
due to
sense.
these meds.
That makes perfect
So
sense. So then what's interesting about that to me is, I could see someone hearing that and interpreting that as, oh, I guess I should never stop, especially if they're not experiencing any kind of dysfunction currently.
Mhm.
But I understand that the dilemma is that there are many adverse effects that come with taking the drug,
Yes,
and they become unbearable, and so you have to stop eventually. And as we have to just recognize that these drugs are not meant to be lifelong
correct.
protectors. So we
When they
have
were
to stop.
designed on the market, they were told that you should take them no longer than 6 months. These days, people take them for like forever. And the more you take it, the more severe are the side effects. And
Mhm.
and the tolerance occur. You won't feel the heat, the high from them for like
Right.
longer than a few months. And then you will become more numb, more dull, your cognitive impairment will occur. And the sexual part is only just just one aspect. But you're right. Your intuition is correct. Like you need to. It won't last forever. It's like it's a drug. It's a drug.
Yeah.
Your
A
body
drug.
is not designed to be high all the time, 24/7
Yes.
for like a lifetime. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And I just think that's, on one hand obvious, but on another hand really needs to be emphasized
Of
that
course.
these are drugs, and I know when we use the euphemism of medication, it just has a whole different connotation to it. And it sounds like it might be reasonable to take it for a lifetime because it's just a medication. But
Yeah.
let's be real and not euphemistic in our language. These are drugs.
Yeah, they
And
are psychoactive substances. They do
yes,
affect your psyche, and
yes,
these are drugs. They are not, because they don't treat any condition. Because
correct.
most of the psychiatric disorders are trauma response. Like depression is a state where your body needs to be settled down to process some trauma. Like
Yeah.
grief is not a condition to be treated. Anxiety is like I can go on and on, but you get the point.
I sure do. And I completely agree with it. So then I appreciate, I kind of like the style that we have here of you telling your story and us kind of commenting on the theory and everything as we go. So let's pick up on your story. So at this point, you've done a round of drugs and then you stop and then you go back to your doctor because you're experiencing these adverse effects, and
Yeah.
it's interpreted as, oh, this is the, regression back into the disorder, and
Or
you're
new
given
mental
another.
condition. I was diagnosed with OCD or something else, like new condition pop up. I was so.
Mm, mm. So at this point, you're prescribed another drug, and you said it was sertraline, or maybe there
Yes.
was one more. Okay. And then how did that affect you, and how long did that last?
Yeah. There in between there are many others, but sertraline. I took the longest sertraline, and it had the most profound effect on me because it triggered some sort of like sub mania state, like hypomania state. And I was totally high on that. I made some terrible decisions. I was at some points aggressive, arrogant. I'm glad that I didn't end up in jail, or like didn't do heavy gambling or some very like hazard behavior. So I was like that for a few years. Like my girlfriend left me, and my friends withdrew from me because I was out of place all the time. But I didn't see this because it's like there is even it's called medication spellbinding, where
Yeah.
when the patient doesn't see the damage, the consequences of those medications, everyone around see that something is wrong with you, Tomasz, and you're crazy, you're out of your mind. But I was, I felt fine. So who gives a crap? But
Yeah.
in the end, the roller coaster rides ended, and I didn't get much of this high. The sexual side effects were increasing, and my cognitive functions were deteriorating. So at that point, I decided, okay. So I believe I need to quit. I need to stop, and yeah, and so I did, and
And
I
what
was
year
fine.
was this?
It
Sorry, just
was
to,
Yeah, it was when I last time when I quit. It was I believe 2018,
okay, so
like
almost 10
6 years
years.
ago. Yeah, it was my last attempt, but before that, I also tried to do this. And it's funny because for 8 months post discontinuation, I was perfectly fine. I felt healthy. I felt better than on the medications. Everything seems to be restored. And then after 8 months post discontinuation, the protracted withdrawal hit me. Like I survived a few weeks of acute withdrawal, and then after 8 months, the protracted withdrawal hit me. So all the cascade, all the chemistry was starting to get back to homeostasis. The autonomic dysregulation was starting to trying to be restored by the compensating mechanisms. And I didn't know what was going on after. How can you connect the dots after 8 months post discontinuation that it was drug related? So unfortunately I reinstated for a few months, because I didn't know what was going on. And then I found surviving antidepressants, and now I was like 100% sure that it was the meds, and I need to do this and survive the protracted withdrawal for how many years? Like it took me 6 years, but I didn't know back then that it was long lasting, right?
And Surviving Antidepressants, is that a book that you're referring to?
No, I'm referring to forum dedicated to tapering and discontinuation of antidepressants or withdrawal from antidepressants, antipsychotic, benzodiazepines. It's an internet forum, and
Yes.
the largest internet forum. I was just googling my symptoms back in 2018 and found this, and I read one story, another story, and say, oh, this guy has the same symptoms I do. He lost basically like joy from life. He was like that inside person, and so was I. And I said, okay, maybe it's the drugs. It wasn't the depression as I was told, or something else. It's pure drug-related condition. And now I'm 100% sure that it was with the protracted withdrawal from Zoloft.
Did you address this with your doctor, the discontinuation, or
Yes,
did you just do it? Okay. And
I
what was
did.
his
Yeah, I did, and I had a suggestion to reinstate, to get back on meds or to switch from there, and I said, okay, no, I want to live without medications for the rest of my life. I want to get my personality back. I want my emotions. I want my sexuality, my cognition. And I said just simply no. And he said, okay, so there is nothing much I can do to help you, because I'm just prescribing meds. So what I can offer you some atypical drug, or maybe we can add you some other drug, antipsychotic, whatever. But I already knew that it was a wrong way to go. Like I was already polydrugged in between, when we were like trying to figure out what was going on with myself, because I was losing cognitive ability, I was losing like emotions. So I have been prescribed some memantine, piracetam drugs that are for treating Alzheimer disease. So it was like roller coaster from the first dose of paroxetine that led me to that point. But back then I already knew that it all was due to this one decision back in 2009, that I took paroxetine in the first place. So my decision was already made up in my mind to stop these medications for good.
Well, I want to hear what, of course, has been, how the last 6 years have gone. But right before we get into that, I'll just comment on, the term you brought up of medication spellbinding. And
Yeah.
I think, you explained it perfectly here, but just to further highlight what this is for people, this is kind of like when it's, the person who's drunk thinks they can drive, and they're just in a state of mind where their ability to assess their own state is impaired. And that doesn't just happen with alcohol. It happens with these prescription drugs as well, particularly psychiatric drugs.
Yes, especially you, because you don't feel the other. You are you think that you are on the safe medications, that you are safe to drive, you are safe to perform, because it's something legal and it has been prescribed by the doctor. So you think, okay, I'm feeling that way, and then there is a huge issue with medication spellbinding, because I think it's also correlated with the awareness that they have been prescribed by the doctor, and so my doctor is somehow responsible for my state of mind that is maybe out of place. But since my doctor is telling me to do so and it's fine, that it must be fine. So the authority, like if people like blindly believe in authority, that is psychiatrists in that matter, so the stronger the spellbinding is. Because I know many cases when even my close friends, when I was telling them, okay, you have this suicidal ideation, you have this anger issues, you have this emotional numbness, it's because of the meds. And he told me, okay, shut up. I trust my doctor. He's know what he's doing. It's not the meds. He diagnosed me now with ADHD or with autistic disorders or whatever. And he's being putting on more and more diagnoses and things. Okay, so maybe doctor will find a solution soon or on the next appointment. And so it's
You make such a good point. You make such a good point. The way that we are even way more susceptible to being medication spellbound when these
yeah.
are prescriptions. Yeah,
Yes.
and like you said, the authority that, kind of confers upon my mental state a certain status of being, medically induced, and therefore makes sense, and sort of must be beneficial ultimately. So it's just a great point. And then I also wanted to just highlight your statement, kind of what you said that you had told your doctor, which was, no, I want my personality back. I want my emotion. I want my sexuality. I want my cognition. I just commend you so highly for that, to take a stand for yourself and to kind of
Yes.
claim everything that is valuable in life. I respect that very much.
Fortunately, that specific doctor were highly understandable, and he had some, like, he believed me, so that I lost it due to medication, or he didn't want to argue with me because he saw me very motivated, and that I was fighting for myself, and I would
Mm,
defend it for like until the end. So he didn't argue at all, and he just nod his head and say, "Okay, no argue about it." But yeah, but it wasn't easy. It took me some time. It took me some years, and I was going from one doctor to another, and at first I was very easily gaslighted because I didn't have this knowledge. Basically, I was missing knowledge, and I wasn't aware of what was going on with me. So it was a long process to be so confident about my condition.
Say a little bit more about how they would gaslight you.
Yeah, so, well, when I first complained about sexual issues, I have been gaslighted. It's all in your head. It's stressed. I have been prescribed sildenafil, that is Viagra, but it didn't do the trick. So I was gaslighted that it's unrelated to the medication. When I was complaining about cognitive impairment, I was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment and have been prescribed paracetamol memantine
Wow.
for Alzheimer's. When I was having anhedonia, and I couldn't experience any joy, I have been prescribed Wellbutrin that also stimulates dopamine. And so every complaint had a different solution, and each time it was medications. When I complained about SSRIs, I have been prescribed moplodemin, that is monoamino oxidase inhibitor. So it was like back and forth, like a ping pong.
Never.
So it was like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so if we now again kind of come back to the timeline of about 6 years ago when you took that stand for yourself and decided to discontinue, what did the process look like from that point on?
Okay, so when I finally realized what's going on and what will happen to me, I said, okay, I need to survive this. I was back then I was living with my family, um, and I informed them that I'm going through protracted withdrawal and PSSD, and that it's difficult. They somehow accepted, but they didn't had clue like what was it about. And the first 3 years were the most difficult, when I had on a daily basis suicidal thoughts with attempt. I was the only place I had to go was internet forums like the surviving antidepressants, Reddit group, Facebook groups, where people were just like me. They were looking for some hope, for some help. I was experimenting with some supplements because back then I had in my mind maybe there is some other pill to reverse it. It was naive, but I was so desperate for something to elevate my symptoms. I didn't do drugs, but the point is I remember I was hitting my face with fists. I was screaming, I'm an atheist, but I started believing in God, that I was yelling, please God help me. I was ruminating and telling all the time that I don't feel anything, I don't feel anything. It felt like a brain damage, and like that it won't ever end. So I was like that for around 3 years, and then since I didn't get much of improvement, I decided, okay, I can't live like this any longer, so I need to do something extreme about it. And I decided the first time in my life to do dedicated my life to heavy workouts on the gym. I bought a personal trainer. He started doing so cardiovascular exercises, so heavy weightlifting and all the stuff. And then I noticed that, okay, I did get some benefits. I get some tiny pleasure response from those activities, and I noticed, okay, so since my reward circuit acts like reacts to those stimulus, I need to possibly continue and follow that path of maybe increasing every aspect of myself in regarding physical, regarding like overall well-being, including diet, including physical activity, including everything like cold
Right.
showers, like wind breathing. I did everything I could to restore my disrupted biochemistry from what I knew from the studies or from what I read from other people stories, and it was the only thing that kept me sane, kept me alive. And it was the point where things starting to improve or to change, that I had any tiny bit a will to survive this and to continue to carry on.
Hmm.
So yeah, it
Amazing.
was.
Wow. And
It's still
that,
in me, I still.
and you can stayed consistent with this kind of holistic, proactive, well-rounded approach.
It was step by step. First was the gym, then I added ketogenic diet, like fasting. Like I was doing all I could to increase this brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I was doing everything to increase like the dopamine production from the sun exposure, from everything I could. And it didn't bring much of like the result, because it was even frustrating at first, because I didn't get the same response as I used to from for instance from jogging. I didn't get this runner high. It was very like the response was very muted, but it was the only thing that I had. Like I couldn't, I could trigger this with psychoactives, with I don't know, smoking weed or whatever, but it wasn't smart. So I believe that this is the only way. That this was my maybe coping mechanism for all of this, but eventually it triggered something, and it helped me. Like the longer I stayed healthy, the better I feel like in the long run. So it was
Yeah.
a long lasting process that lasts like around 3 or 4 years to be consistent about those positive lifestyle changes.
Mm.
So I believe it helped me tremendously. Beside, of course, time itself that was passing
Uh,
after the last dose.
and how would you describe your state, your overall level of well-being now?
Like it's difficult to put this in percentage, because it's been like around 15 years since the first dose of the drug. So I'm a different person. 15 years, every people do change over the years. I'm older. I have different response, different perspective. I consider myself recover. I still do feel, I feel grief, because what have happened and what I could have achieved in my life. And I'm doing my best to to get back my life, like starting this project of helping others, and then all the stuff. But I do feel joy again. I do enjoy sexuality. I restored my cognition. I can read book. I can understand what I'm reading. I can speak English once again, and Polish, and I can socialize. So I feel like a new person. Maybe not. I can say I feel like my old self again. No, I feel like I built from this something new, my new personality that I'm happy about, because I'm more
Yeah.
confident. I don't have any sort of anxiety. I'm confident about life, about myself. I have some rough moments when I think about the loss, the stuff that happened, all the people that left me from my life. But the point is that I'm keep pushing forward, and the year by year I'm getting stronger and more fulfilled in life. So it's definitely better, and people do recover. But from my perspective, the recovery process can be much shorter if you put your heart in it and do everything you can to improve your overall being, because we are in a very severe autonomic dysregulative state that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, if you, for instance, I don't know, heart surgery, you need to go to rehabilitation process used to strengthen your heart muscle. Otherwise, you won't be as quickly recovered as you can be. The same applies to recovering from psychoactives. You need to do something to help your body, regenerate from this, let's say, neurotoxins, or basically, toxic substances, because they definitely interfere with your health overall.
Well said.
Yeah.
Extremely inspiring. Extremely inspiring. Wow. And I mean, just to again highlight what you said, that you kind of have to realize that you're in an extremely autonomic, dysregulated state when you're taking drugs for a long period of time, and that would apply to illicit drugs and prescribed drugs as well. And therefore you kind of have to respond with an equal level of extreme proactiveness to facilitate a fast and full, and I don't know if you can expect fast, but a faster and complete, recovery process. Wow.
Yeah, it's like you can choose to be bedridden and wait for the things to happen, and they will maybe most likely happen. But there is also higher chance for you to give up, and giving up is just basically losing your life. And this is the like the this is no joke for anyone, because I lost many people from the community that I was talking with them, like with you on the webcam, and we were complaining about and talking openly about suicide, and the next day there was no more Benjamin, or I can name many names. But it's a very difficult experience to go through.
What would you like what are your emotions toward the psychiatrists who were prescribing you all these different drugs and who never pointed you in the direction of effective coping mechanisms and healing modalities?
I want to believe that they had good intentions. I wish, like, I'm not quite sure, because like, how can you because I can't even imagine how can you treat someone with such stuff after 15 minutes of consultation and say, okay, this is all in your brain chemistry. And it's like they didn't have the awareness of the consequences of those medications. They were taught during their studies that those drugs are safe, and they can be discontinued abruptly, and everything resolves within 2 weeks. And that's
Yeah,
what they were taught, and they were just passing those knowledge
right.
forward. So I'm not like I'm trying to protect them, but or explain them, but on the other hand, I don't know, like may, uh, it's hard to say, but I did feel anger at some point to my doctor when I was, because he was very sophisticated. When I complained about sexual side effects, he didn't discontinue the medication. He switched from one drug to another that also had even those side effects named in a leaflet. So he was just basically, ignoring or, my complaints about the side effects. So I have mixed feelings, but I do believe that vast majority have good intentions, but they are maybe not trained enough to be aware of the long lasting consequences. But it's changing now. Right now we have much more awareness, and more papers are being published about long lasting consequences of antidepressants.
Right. One thing that came to my mind that I was going to share when we were talking about medication spellbinding was, so I know I've mentioned many times, so regular listeners have heard me talk about how I work in jails and prisons, and I get to see, the role of psychiatrists in those settings, and just how casually drugs are prescribed in that setting. And so there's a lot I could say about that. But the one thing I want to say right now is I had an experience recently where I was working with a group of ladies, and this one lady came in and she said, "I'm so high right now." I mean, her exact words were, "I'm high as fuck right now," is what she said.
Well, I
And
can relate.
right. And the way she was acting, I mean, yeah, she was high. But and she, I forget exactly which one. I got to recover the name of it, but she was taking an antidepressant at a
Yeah,
pretty
high
high
dose
dose.
that triggers
Yep,
mania. That's basically it.
exactly.
She was high
Exactly.
on serotonin.
Yep. She was
Yeah.
high on serotonin, exactly. And yet what was so interesting, and why this was kind of a revelatory moment for me, was because she is a drug addict. She is in there on drug charges, and she has a lot of experience doing various street drugs, which means that she knows what it feels like to be high, and she
Yeah.
knows to call it that. She understands that she took a drug and it made her high. She's done that 1,000 times. And
Yes.
she wasn't kind of under the spell of like prescriptions, and how this is, maybe now I'm in a balanced state. And like I said, it was just revelatory for me, because if you take a person who doesn't have a lot of experience with street drugs, or of
You
course
don't
like a
know.
child, they would never interpret that effect as them just being high. They would interpret it as the drug working, or
Yeah.
that they feel better. So to me, you almost kind of need a certain level of drug experience to really recognize the effects of the drug for what it really is, which is just a psychoactive, an altered psychoactive state.
Yes, if you were like selling those drugs in the powder form on the street, and people
Right.
would take it, and they will had quicker effect than after 2 weeks, people were, and they are even there. Those drugs are on the black market, and they are marketing as a
True.
serotonin booster. So it, like, it's just a tomato. Like, you can call
Right.
it. Yeah, but and I had very similar experience, because back then when I was studying, I had practice in a not in a psych ward, when they were treating people with addictions, like rehab center. And
Okay.
when they had this withdrawals from alcohol or amphetamines, they were prescribed by the psychiatrist antidepressants to ease the pain. And I heard the same from one of the patients that, wow, dude, I'm so high on this trazodone. Wow, I have some wild dreams. What's going on? Those pills are doing insane. And I it's like, exactly, those are, psychoactive substances that are being legally prescribed. So
Yep.
the
And
same
some
applies to,
people.
medical marijuana. Right now in Poland we have legal weed, but it's the same street drug, but with
Right.
some marks that, okay, you can treat, like, I don't know, cancer or some neuropathic pain, but it's still, you're
You're
still
gonna.
being high on all these substances. So it's like,
Right. Right.
it's obvious for me right now, but back then I had the same thing, that since I'm being prescribed by the doctor, it's not a drug, it's a medicine.
Exactly. And
You know,
and therefore it can't just be a high.
yeah,
It's a cure, maybe.
yeah, it's a
Um,
cure. It's it's supposed to feel, you're supposed to feel like that because you have your imbalance has been restored. And when I speak with people, because I here in Poland there is also a crisis. The people, like 10% of the population taking those meds, and I met a lot of them, and when I was talking, I felt this, this barrier between them, this shift in mindset that, okay, when I was mentioning about quitting those antidepressants, no, 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 I need to take this forever. My doctor told me so, and I quit them once, and I felt terribly low, so I'm not ready for them. I say, no, you fool. It was the withdrawals. It wasn't your recurring depression,
Right.
and they don't know. They are not aware. So this is the medication spellbinding. They're not even, and you can call it dependency, but it's not like it's different than in like addicts, because at some point they do want to quit, but they can't, because there is like physical dependency on the physical level when your body actually can function, and it needs to go through this. But you need to be aware what's going on. Without this, you just think that it's and you're being told, reassured by the doctor that it's
Right.
reoccurring anxiety, depression. So
Right.
with antidepressants, you have they are pro-depressive drugs, and with anxiolytics, like they're pro-anxiety, because in the long run they strengthen the anxiety, and the antidepressants increase the depressive symptoms because of
That's
the
true.
messing up of the serotonin. So it's
That's
like it's
true.
a yeah.
It's kind of the great irony of all of this, that
Yes,
these drugs can actually cause a chemical imbalance that
you
was not
do.
there in the first place. And I
How
know
could
you're
they
from
don't? I mean,
right,
they're
right.
interfering with the most fragile system in our body, which is serotonin system. It's not only in the brain. It's serotonin receptors are in the heart, in the liver, in the guts. They're everywhere, and it's
You are
you're playing with fire. And how can you
mhm.
expect different, outcome? But now
Yes,
we know better. But you know, I wish we were so smart like 15 years ago.
I know, right? But luckily you personally are going to, I think, maybe prevent other people from going too far down the path that you
I do hope
were on.
so. That's my goal, because I
Right.
don't wish this to anyone, to fall into this rabbit hole, because my baseline problem, the anxiety I had back then, it was like piece of cake. It was nothing
Mm,
compared to what I've been through after discontinuation. And people, most many people are lifetimers with those medications.
right,
So
right.
because they cannot even grasp the idea of quitting them, because they know what's they have tasted what's on the other side, and they need to go through this. So it's like uh you need to be prepared for this, and have some mental strength and determination, because but the it's worth it. The point is, for everyone who's watching this, that it's worth it to to survive this, and to wait, and to not to end this, because on the other hand, there is the end of the tunnel, and the symptoms eventually are subsiding, and you are improving. So it's very worth to not to give up, because I work with other people who are going for drug withdrawal. It's difficult even to convince those people to carry on, to continue. And every time I have about to have another session, or I'm afraid if they gonna show up, if they're still alive, because this is we're talking about life and death here, not about some minor mood changes. It's
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's difficult.
But it's worth it, you say. So did you end up finishing your studies in cognitive neuroscience?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but I was working in IT.
Okay. Yep.
And but fun fact is, I quit my job, and I'm working on this project, protracted
Okay.
withdrawal, and I'm trying to to develop my YouTube channel, my website, and I'm trying to become like to how to say it, like to become an expert in what I have become because of this meds. Like maybe
Mm,
Angela Peacock, for instance. Uh,
mhm.
she's a war veteran, and she also took those medications for many years, and now she's like psychiatric drugs withdrawal consultant, and
Right.
I'm trying to do the same, because of
Awesome.
my unique experience, to be
Right.
honest. And it ruined my life profoundly, and now I want to make best out of it, and try to help others and be as professional as I can be about it, with all my scientific background. So yeah,
Right.
so this is what I'm doing recently.
Well, again, I respect that tremendously. You know, um, I can't commend you highly enough, and I'm so glad that I'm able to support you by giving you this platform and by sharing the link to
Yeah,
your website with all the listeners here. And um, I trust that you and I will stay in touch. I feel like we are part of the same broader community of critical thinkers examining
yeah,
modern practices in psychiatry.
yeah.
So thank you from the bottom of my heart for
Yeah, thank
sharing
you
your
too for this
story, and
opportunity. It's great
you're
for
welcome.
to be able to reach out to you. Like, yeah, I saw your YouTube channel, and I'm glad that you're doing something positive about it. You have this similar mindset, so it's like it's a great, it's a small world. This is the small
Yes.
community. Tomorrow I'm seeing Robert Whittaker, so it's like,
Oh, nice.
yeah, because he's in Poland, but I'm still struggling with chicken pox. I have this zits on my
Oh,
face that is due to chicken pox, so I won't be seeing him in person. But he offered me a call on Zoom.
fantastic.
So yeah, it is a great opportunity because I yesterday I bought his book, so to show. But yeah, he's a hero, like,
Yes.
for with all this awareness. So it's like I love this community because finally, like, the truth is always the greatest value among everything, and it finally comes to the surface, the truth about antidepressants, and it's I'm happy about it what's happening, because like in my life, I spent so many years of suffering, and now I'm doing something positive, and I can contribute, and I can help others. And I met you. I met tomorrow. I'm seeing this Rob Winnegar. It's like Whitaker, sorry. So it's like it's funny, it's a tragedy on the one hand, but on the other hand, I'm trying to look at something positive that happened as
Yeah,
well, because I would
exactly.
never, nobody, I wouldn't even ever believe in if somebody told me that those drugs can have such a long lasting effects, and I would say, oh, you're just, I would probably gaslight him and told him, oh, maybe you
Mhm,
should change the meds or whatever. But
mhm.
now I know better, and
Right.
this is the price I
And
had to pay.
honestly, I feel like psychologically, the one way in which we can um, come to terms with things in our past that we may regret is to make sure that that was not in vain, that the suffering was not in vain. And
Yes,
it seems
yes.
like you're a great example of that.
Yeah, just to to leave something positive out of it.
Yeah.
There is the term like post-traumatic growth, right? Maybe you're
Yes.
familiar with that. And I think right now I'm growing like from this
Right.
trauma. And
Right.
it's still bad, because I'm developing my own thing. I'm not working for some IT company. I'm doing
Mm.
my thing, and I'm my way. And it's stressful for me, because I don't know if I succeed. Like, for instance, like Angela Peacock here, but still it's my thing, and I will leave this. Already received some positive feedback, so it's worth it. Helping others
Yes.
also, it's always
Yes.
nice. But it's I will mention this quickly, because I have been banished from all of the communities, from the surviving antidepressants Reddit, Facebook groups, because I was the most dooming guy in the community. I was actively telling people that there is no hope, that this condition is permanent, that suicide is the only way. And I was like that because of the drugs, because of the personality changes, because I was so sorrow, I was so frustrated, and I didn't see any tiny glimpse of hope. So I was like that. And now when I came back and say, hey, I'm better, hey, I recovered, hey, I'm doing this, I want to help others, now people are dragging this out to me and say, oh, he's a liar, he was very toxic person. And like, it's difficult for me, I need to also process this, because I'm not very welcome in those communities of on Reddit, because the people are very down and very low, like I did a few years ago. But this is the price I need to pay, because I wasn't behave like, yeah, I was very, very, yeah, mean and not so well. But I believe, on the other hand, when I think about it, it's like it should also, it's a proof that I improved. I'm like in a different place than I was a few years back, but it's still something difficult for me to process, that when I came back and I was expecting to be welcomed, oh, I'm glad you recovered. No, I was just simply gaslighted by the, but this is common bias in those communities, that other people who see that other people improving or recovering, they're being gaslighted and told that they didn't have the same condition, they took different
Right.
medications, they were lying, or they were, I don't know, doing this for personal reasons or whatever. So it's like, uh, the community itself is very difficult to to be with, because those people are not healthy, period, and they are not think straight, like they are not logical at the very, especially at the very beginning of the protracted withdrawal journey. So yeah, so
Well, I'm sorry. That sounds hard,
yeah,
and it makes sense what you're saying. And I mean, I think in the same exact way that someone who was addicted to street drugs, once they sober up, um, they, people, I think, need to exercise forgiveness and recognize that, like you said, that wasn't really me. It wasn't really a reflection of your values and your way of conducting yourself, your true personality.
yeah.
So hopefully people see that and welcome you back into certain
It takes
communities.
time. It takes time, but I'm over it. But it's still just some, because I had different expectations. But that's what, just like you said, like the same applies to people, to drug addicts, because when they were high on some various
Right.
chemicals, they were just doing some random shit, and
Yep.
they have been remembered by those actions. So, and so did I. So
Right.
yeah,
Well, again, your story is very inspiring. Your mission is noble. And I'm so happy to be connected with you and here supporting you.
yeah. Thank you
So,
for having me, and thank you for
very
this
welcome.
opportunity. And I hope in sometimes we can, in the future, maybe we can have another one, or
Yes,
in some different circumstances. If you're here in Poland, anyhow, or I will be. You're in Florida? No, in
California.
California. Oh, sorry,
Hmm.
California. So
Yeah. So that I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that.
maybe one day, maybe one day.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
So
will.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tomas, it's been a pleasure. And I will talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Please let me
And
know
thank you.
once
Yeah,
the video is. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Thank you.
will. Yeah. And I'll just say too, as always, I always like to kind of give a shout out to the Psychology Is audience, especially those of you listening still, who listen to the full episode. So you're, who we're really doing this for, the people who have the appetite for these long form conversations about these important issues. So thank you so much. And we will see you again on the next episode.